What's that?
Our new Space Coast Credit Union watchdog.
Watchdog.
The financial products and services you want, plus the protection you need. Space Coast Credit Union. Your life, your financial watchdog.
Miami Dolphins have another guaranteed victory game this week. That's right, I said it, guaranteed victory. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. I am your host, Chris Perkins, your South Florida Sun Sentinel Miami Dolphins columnist. That is David Furones, your South Florida Sun Sentinel Miami Dolphins writer. Furones, what do you think? Are you on board with this guaranteed victory game? What do you think?
What's up, Perk? I didn't know I was doing the show today with Joe Namath, but yeah, don't spoil the end though. We got predictions in about an hour.
We do. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by our predictions. I hope not anyway. Look, as usual, we like to thank our viewers for watching the show here on YouTube. We'd like to remind you, if you missed any part of this show, you can catch the podcast on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. We'd also like you to sign up for our weekly newsletter, The Fans Flash. You can sign up for that using the QR code shown on your screen. And we'd also like to remind you to leave comments, thoughts, ideas in our live chat. Some of those questions we will entertain here on the show as usual. Others I will put in a Q&A that's going online this afternoon. So as always, leave your comments at the best place to get intelligent Dolphins chat. That is right there in our chat room. So today, we are going to talk about the 4-6 Miami Dolphins hosting the 3-8 New England Patriots on Sunday at Hard Rock Stadium. We'll talk about the Dolphins' new look offense. What is up with that? Do you like it? Do you like the reasoning behind it? What is the Dolphins' best path to the playoffs? We'll talk about that. The Furones bonus, you know we can't do without the Furones bonus. David Furones will name his 5 most important players on the Dolphins right now. I would think that list is different than it was 10 or 12 weeks ago. And we will also have our predictions for the Dolphins and Patriots game. As we always say around here, there's an ocean of possibilities. Let's dive in. All right, Furones, we see a different Dolphins offense out there, and congratulations to Mike McDaniel for recognizing he needed to make some changes, some tweaks. He needed to approach things differently. He needed to think about things differently. Big ups to Mike for that. That was much needed. Now, here's the question. Is this sustainable, Furones? And, you know, look, we know that this is kind of a run game, short pass offense now, as opposed to that big play offense that we saw the previous 2 plus years under Mike McDaniel. We have an offense now where it's led by Tua, Devon Achane, and Jonnu Smith, as opposed to Tua, Jalen Waddle, and Tyreek Hill. My concern for this offense, and again, I'm very glad that Mike McDaniel made this change. My concern is Devon Achane is not built for this kind of usage, this many touches throughout the season. He's already missed 1 game due to a concussion. Raheem Mostert has missed 3 games due to a chest injury. That's really my main concern with this offense is this team built for this kind of physicality? What do you think, Furones? What do you think about the change, and what do you see as the positives and any possible drawbacks here?
Well, yeah, you talk about Devon Achane. He's actually already surpassed his rookie carry total, and he even had that before this past game. So midway point in this season, even with basically missing 1 game, he actually hasn't missed a game because he just left early in the Patriots game, and then it was the bye week, so he was able to come back with the Guardian cap by the time they played the next game with the concussion. But basically missed the whole game with that concussion, and already very quickly surpassed his carry total, and then also touches by receptions. He's already at 46. He had 27 last year, so he might double hit last year's total in the next game because he is so active in the pass game, especially when Tua Tagovailoa is in at quarterback. I've benefited from that a couple times in our prop bet pieces, just being aware that Tua will be finding him out of the backfield and catching passes. So, a heavy dose of the run game is what we're seeing. Not so much spread out, as we did not see Raheem Mostert get a carry at all the Monday night against the Rams. Then we see just 3 carries for him this past game. Jalen Wright gets some sporadic activity, but not much. So they're not really spelling Devon Achane too much. It's a lot of workload on him. But I do love what I'm seeing. Jonnu Smith getting incorporated into the offense. Defenses are still number one, focusing on limiting Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And I think we've seen a fine adjustment by Mike McDaniel and this Dolphins offense of taking what the defense gives them. Tua, especially that Buffalo game, Mike McDaniel said it was one of the best games he has had since he had Tua, now going into year 3, just because of the way that he took what the defense gave the Dolphins. So we see the adjustment, and contrary to a column I read in the Sun Sentinel, Perk, that this is just still not enough. What do you need to see, Perk? You need to see them drop 40 on the 85 Bears? What?
No, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what I need to see. I need to see the consistency here. And again, look, this team was built coming into this season and the previous 2 seasons as Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and Tua, and now you have gone way away from that. You're featuring Achane and Jonnu Smith, and you're going to have a good run game, a strong run game. Alec Ingold's return will help this run game very strongly. By the way, that reminds me, I got to say hello to everybody here. Peter McDowell, Raphael Courtwright, Juan Pablo Barbuth, Sean Heller, what's going on? Comrade from bitterly cold Scotland. Love it. Robert Rosario, love your energy too. I don't know why I said that. I don't know about your energy, but he said he loved my energy, so I figured I would do that.
You see him in the comments. He's bringing great energy to the comments.
There you go.
Yeah, we love his energy.
Thank you, Furones. Thank you for that save, for that much-needed save right there. Zaxers, you're the reason why I made the Alec Ingold comment, and I also had a note after the game about Ingold. But yes, his absence has hurt the run game the previous 2 weeks, and we saw the run game totals go down. And to me, it's because without Ingold, you've got a man in your face at the line of scrimmage. As soon as you get that ball, if you're Achane, if you're Jalen Wright, if you're Raheem Mostert, usually Ingold clears that guy out. So not having Ingold I'm not really worried about the yardage. With me, the run game was always the situational thing, right? The third and short and the red zone and the goal line and things like that. Between the 20s, zero problem with this run game. It's just that, as I've said before, this run game will not win you games. It will get yards, but I need to see the red zone stuff. I need to see the goal line stuff. That's the kind of stuff I need to see, and I need to see the durability. I need to see it work against a quality team, such as Buffalo, such as Green Bay, such as Houston. Whatever you want to do against, Oakland and New England, that's fine. I take nothing from that. I give you credit for going to LA and winning on the road. That's a tough win. Any road win is good. You scored 23 points, but for me to believe, I've got to see it again against good teams. And this was my problem with the previous offense, that I kept saying, you're not doing it against good teams. Now they've scrapped that offense and they've come to this offense. But you can't convince me in a 4-week span that, hey, this offense is better than the number 1 offense in the league last year. I've got to see it. And that's my only thing. I've got to be convinced of it.
Yeah. Well, a few weeks ago, we did see this offense do it against a good team at Buffalo. And I know you were were on the pedestal saying, no, the offense lost you the game. Well, I don't know, maybe all because of just one Raheem Mostert fumble, but they scored 27 at Buffalo against a defense that has historically dominated the Dolphins, and they did it in the way we're talking about here. They ran the football so well against the Bills. Actually, one area where we have seen them be a little bit susceptible, but then still not really produce against them in that facet of the game so much. So I thought from the offensive perspective, that was great to see in that game. And once Mike McDaniel has had Tua come back in and now get a few games under his belt, yes, he's gone away from running it as much as he did. He even made note of this both post-game and I believe also on Monday in his day after presser. Of course, yes, once you have Tua in there, then you're going to go back to throwing the ball more. It was somewhat out of necessity when they ran the ball and they were as dependent on the run for the games that he was out. But it's a nice balance to be able to have both. And I do want to see both really come to fruition, especially now. Alec Ingold hopefully coming back soon for this Dolphins offense. I think we've been seeing it the last 2 weeks, even without him, and the run game should only possibly get back to what it was doing once he is back in the lineup.
Yeah, and again, let me be clear. I'm not a Dolphin offense hater. I just need
You're just an overall Dolphins hater, right?
Wow, man. I'm a skeptic. I'm a cynic. I need to be won over. Mark is logging in from New Mexico. Raphael Courtwright, I think that I acknowledged you earlier. Nick Bangert says, will we actually see Wynn suit up this season? Could be huge for us if he's still got juice. Let me go to a different issue there. I'll build off of that. When we talk about the run game and this new offense, Austin Jackson is out. We have to cross our fingers and hope that Teron Armstead stays healthy for the rest of the season. What do you think about the offensive line recently, Furones? We've seen Tua being – I think Tua has had enough time to throw. We've seen Tua's agility, right? He's moved around in the pocket. He found Jonnu Smith. He found Jalen Waddle on a scramble touchdown, right? The offensive line is not going to be perfect, but I think it's been good enough. I think it's good enough to get you the 5 wins that you need in these last 7 games to get you to 9 wins and get you into the wild card. What are your thoughts on offensive line?
Yeah, and not only the 2 examples you gave, also Rolling left the buying time to find Jalen Waddle downfield this past game. I think you're referencing the touchdown against Buffalo late.
Right.
So, yeah, also this past game he had one instance, and then also he rolled left to find Tyreek Hill in the end zone. So I know training camp, kind of when we were watching those practices, we would joke when Tua escapes one of those would-be training camp sacks because they don't actually hit the quarterbacks, and when we're debating whether it's a sack or not, and then I'm there saying, no, this is that newfound agility and escapability from Tua. And then actually we are kind of seeing it now these past couple of games. You can't lie. I mean, we've seen it come out a couple of times. So, you rather see Tua just getting the ball out on time, sticking to what he's normally done across his career. But it is nice to have that ability and then maybe escape some situations where he could be in danger, but also not fall in love with that because you don't want him to make himself susceptible to those hits. But stay on time, stay on schedule. I do like that. You're asking about the offensive line. Yes, I mean, interior offensive line was the big question. Aaron Brewer has been really good at center. You knew what you were going to get at left tackle from Teron Armstead, but then the guards, Robert Jones and Liam Eichenberg, you've seen the progression over the course of this season from the first month where maybe there were some struggles, and then since then, as the Dolphins' run game got on this roll, you've really seen them. And then Austin Jackson, of course, now you don't have him for the rest of the year. But Kendall Lamb has done a fine job, and I mean, just the way they used chips and different ways to keep Max Crosby at bay when he was lining up on his side was very impressive to see just from the team blocking perspective. So, I like what I'm seeing. And then Tua, when he has to bring it out, he does have that newfound escapability here and there, but you don't want to see him have to depend on it too often.
Let me ask you two things. By the way, I'm always in this chat. Pretty Boy, what's up, Pretty Boy? Pretty Boy brings up a great point, and it reminds me of something. He says, we get Ingold back, and we're balling. We need him for Green Bay. Furones, if I'm correct, this will...
Green Bay native, right?
That's what I was just going to say. That's a homecoming for Alec Ingold, so you know he's going to be back for that game. You know he'll be back for that. He's not missing that game. Raphael Courtwright says brother versus brother was interesting. That's the Eichenbergs. And I think we missed a homecoming in Southern California. That's Jason Sanders' territory, I believe. I believe that's where he's from, which reminds me, Mark said hello from New Mexico. Yeah, I did say that. Mark logging in from New Mexico.
Well,
Furones?
The homecoming there. That was the first game he missed. And he went to USC.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Of course, Jalen Phillips had his time at UCLA and is from Southern California as well.
Yep. So yeah, I always like the homecomings, always like those stories. Furones, let me ask you a couple of quick things to wrap this segment up about the offense. Last year, number 1 in the league. 2 years ago, number 6 in the league. I'm not going to ask you if this offense is better. Could this offense be more effective? And because you're going to utilize people in different ways. So I think it could be more effective. And do you trust this offense to have quick strike ability? If you're down by 10 in the fourth quarter, the way that it meticulously works its way down the field, can they go over the top for Jonnu, for OBJ, for Tyreek, for Jalen Waddle? Is it a better offense, and can it strike quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be more effective because it wasn't that your whole point last year was the number 1 offense trademark that it had. It was kind of a little bit facetious. It was stacking up yards against bad teams and not really coming through against a good team. So in the offseason, that's why they addressed some of the things that they expand on. The incorporation of a tight end, bringing in a third wide receiver and Odell Beckham Jr. You've seen him a little bit in these last couple of games. I know he missed the first 4 games on PUP, still needed a couple of games after that to really get incorporated into the offense. But you're really seeing Jonnu Smith flourish as that true third receiving option. I mean, Devon Achane catching the ball both out of the backfield and when he lines up sort of that scat back roll, also lining up as a receiver, getting so involved in this offense. And now you do have like Malik Washington, who scored a touchdown against the Rams, and River Craycraft has had a couple of games back under his belt as he had that preseason shoulder injury. So you're seeing all these playmakers now come together. So I think, yes, it can be more effective once you see everything sort of in unison. And what was the second question there?
Do you trust the comeback ability of this offense? We haven't seen the big plays. We saw to Jonnu. We've seen Achane. I think last week he had a 36-yard reception and a 30-yard run or so, whatever it was. But do you trust the comeback ability and the big play strike ability?
Sure, because, I mean, that's what we had seen so much the previous 2 years. So, and we saw it come up late in this past game. So, I do believe they can hit the big play. They haven't as much, but when you have players like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and then now you're seeing a big play made by Jonnu Smith late in the game, yes, I do believe this offense can make big plays late. It's just they've been taking what the defense gives them, and yeah, you might need some more of those methodical drives. Maybe you hurry up more late in the game while still hitting those short passes and being methodical in late game scenarios if you are down 2 scores. But also just use that methodical offense early in games and don't put yourself down 2 scores, and then you won't have to be in those situations. But, I could see it if needed because we had seen it so much the previous 2 years.
Yep. Don't let yourself get down 2 scores. That's like the Mike McDaniel. Don't throw any interceptions, and you don't have to make any tackles, Tua. Yeah, I like that. Makes sense. Dana Bice, what's going on? Wanted to say what's up to Dana. All right, Furones, let's migrate over to segment 2 and the Dolphins' road to the playoffs. To me, it's the same. You beat the non-playoff teams on your schedule, right? The Dolphins might only have one other 10-win team on their schedule. They've played Buffalo twice. Green Bay might be the only team that wins 10 games left on their schedule, right? I mean, San Francisco could be a 500 team. Houston could be a 500 team. Houston is what, 6-4, Green Bay 7-3, and San Francisco 5-5, if I'm not mistaken.
Houston just on Monday night, so now they're 7-4 now. No?
7-4. Okay, there you go. See, Furones, this is why I always say, this is why I always couch that stuff, Furones. You always get on me about that. I'm not 100% sure.
You see, you did your show prep before Monday Night Football, and then you didn't say anything after.
That's
exposed.
That's it. I know, exactly. I'll work on that. But look, Furones, but the path to the playoffs, it remains the same. Like we were saying, you've got 7 games remaining. You win 5 of those, and you get to 9 wins. You're probably going to get that 7th spot. I think 9-8 probably gets you into the playoffs in the AFC in that final spot. Now, you're working so hard to make a trip to Pittsburgh or Baltimore or Buffalo or Kansas City, but whatever. You got to get into the tournament to win the title, right? So the path to the playoffs, even with this revamped offense, Furones, it is doable. I don't see a huge obstacle on the schedule aside from road games and health. To me, those are the 2 big things. How do you view the rest of this season?
Yeah, obviously, first starts with taking care of business at home against a team you should beat in the Patriots. At Green Bay on Thanksgiving is going to be very tough. It's just like everything lines up as far as the difficulties. Short week on the road, traveling on a short week is always more difficult. And playing maybe the best team left on your schedule, at least the team with the best record remaining on your schedule on the short week, and in what could be the coldest game you have left. Now, the last 2 at Cleveland on December 29th and at the Jets January 5th. Yes, those could be very cold in their own right. But, I mean, Green Bay on Thanksgiving, it's going to be cold. And also, I feel like sometimes it's more difficult, that first cold front or first cold game that you experience. Whereas if they experience the cold there, then maybe if they see similar temperatures at Cleveland and at the Jets later, then you've kind of already gone through it. And maybe you had like one of these Miami cold fronts where it gets to like 55, and then you're growing a little bit closer to getting accustomed to it. But yeah, that's why that first very just drastic change in temperature, I feel like sometimes could be tough. So there's so many reasons why that Green Bay one will be difficult. And then obviously at Houston, going over there is going to be a difficult one. So if those are your 2 losses that you have to give that gets you to 9-8, then I can see the path. Of course, you still have the San Francisco 49ers, a very talented team, but one that they've been struggling this year. And even with Christian McCaffrey back, we just saw them lose this past game to the Seattle Seahawks. So they got a lot to correct in their own right. But, I mean, just watch. I bet you they're going to have it all figured out by the time the Dolphins face them in, mid-December? Like this week. That's the Week 16 game. Actually kind of late December 22nd. So, but, yeah, interesting. You have a clearer path to the 7 seed, even though you're still 1.5 games back of the Broncos, because now the Bengals have dipped below you from that Sunday night game. But that also means the Chargers are distancing themselves as one of those options for a team to surpass. So the Chargers are 7-3 and looking like they're closer to securing one of those playoff spots. Baltimore at 7-4 is going to be difficult to leapfrog in the standings. So it's kind of like you're basically looking at Denver at number 7, because even Pittsburgh, you thought maybe they could start to fall off, but they have proven that's not what they're planning on doing. They're 8-2 and they keep rolling even against Baltimore. So it's kind of like your path is just more clear. It's got to be the number 7 seed. It's got to be taking Denver out. And then it's kind of only the Indianapolis Colts in between you and the Broncos, which that tiebreaker could rear its ugly head, especially since you did see the Jets just lose to the Colts. The Colts won that game. Maybe it would have been better for the Dolphins if the Jets had actually won that game, because you have your 2 games remaining against the Jets. If you're planning on getting to 9-8, the most obvious path is sweeping the Jets and not splitting and then having to win another game that might be more like at Green Bay or at Houston. So, you control your own destiny against the Jets. You already do not have the tiebreaker against the Colts, who are a half a game up on you, and they won that Week 6 game when you played without Tua.
Let me bring up some breaking news that a couple of people have brought up in the chat and a topic that I had listed under this segment. Joe Douglas has been fired from the New York Jets. Comrade tells us that. Nick Bangert tells us that. Here's the question that I had listed under this segment, Furones, and it says, does everyone, and this is in regard to the Dolphins, does everyone return intact if the Dolphins get a playoff berth? And this is obviously a reference to Chris Grier. If the Dolphins win 9 games, and I want to hear from fans on this also, because your opinion is really the one that I'm interested in. If the Dolphins get to 9-8 and get to the playoffs, does Chris Grier deserve to come back? Because he did stock a roster that was able to shift gears mid-season and get to the playoffs, even if you don't win a playoff game. And by the way, let's not move the goalpost here, right? The successful season mark is winning a playoff game. I know you were 1-3. I know you were 2-6. I know Tua was out. The successful goal is still winning a playoff game. If you get to the playoffs after all this mess, even after you bungled the backup quarterback thing, does Chris Grier deserve to come back? And does Chris Grier deserve to oversee the next draft? Does he deserve to oversee the next backup quarterback? Like, think about all that stuff. My opinion, I hate to kind of wiggle out of this. I don't know yet. Let's see how this evolves. Let's see what happens, because look, he's done I would say a very shaky job so far. But if you make the playoffs, okay. I would say probably not. He probably shouldn't come back. But again, you've got to untangle a lot of knots. If Greer doesn't come back, then your next GM, he's got to be a Mike McDaniel fan, right? And he's got to be a Tua fan, because Mike McDaniel and Tua aren't going anywhere. So I would say right now, probably not. At 9-8, Greer probably doesn't come back. But overall, I'm wait and see. I would say I'm 70% wait and see.
Well, yeah, I think you definitely bring everyone back if you get to 9-8. That's a big transformation mid-season to get to that mark. But more so, I was just thinking, regardless, you're committed to this core the same way you said. So I think you're seeing it out with the core regardless. I was saying it on this show. I was saying it on appearances with our friend Big O on his show when he would pound the table about Mike McDaniel every week. Losing games. And I said, no, I mean, you're committed to this core. So even if the end of the season didn't go your way, you're still at least going into next year saying, and they would just fall back on, well, the season went awry because Tua missed 4 games on injured reserve early in the season. And that's why it was just too big of a hole to climb out of, even as we turned it around a little bit, but then it wasn't quite to the level that we needed to. So that would be the perspective for the franchise, win or lose. In this case, get to 9-8 and a potential playoff spot or not. Now, I do agree with you. The goal still has to be win a playoff game. Just because you started with so much adversity, well, that adversity should be the opportunity, as we hear so much coming from Dolphins headquarters, to make that season come back and then still win a playoff game. So, I think the goal shouldn't change. It's more difficult because of everything you put yourself through. And as everyone comes back next year, there has to be an emphasis on the backup quarterback position. You can't have such pivotal seasons where just wasted because you had to go down with an injury of any sort, this time a concussion, as we have seen at previous times. And especially if it's an IR stint, anytime that Tua has a concussion, and medical experts, because of Tua's concussion history, advise of that, then that's 4 games minimum. Anytime it happens again down the road, you need to have a strong backup quarterback, just knowing that that is a real possibility. I hate to say it for Tua and put it in those terms, but you do have to operate as a franchise. Like, yes, it is a distinct, very real possibility, season in and season out, and be prepared for that scenario, because you can't have seasons just lost and wasted because another concussion happens.
Yeah, one of my problems with Chris Grier, and I'll get to the viewer comments here in a second, is that as Dave Hyde has said, and as I've said, he's got no vision. And the backup quarterback thing is on him. The offense thing is on him. Coming into last season, the 2023 season, they should have had a receiving tight end. They should have had a slot receiver. They should have had more of a focus on a total offense as opposed to the big play offense. And look, that's Chris Grier's responsibility as the GM. And so I fault him for that lack of foresight, that lack of vision. And I just think, man, next year is the last year of this window, right? That Tehran will probably be gone. By the way, let me read these comments first, because and what I'm going to get to afterwards remind me of this. But after I read these comments, what I'm going to get to is, okay, so if this change of philosophy works in the off season, don't you have to get rid of either Tyreek or Jalen Waddle? And I shouldn't say get rid of, trade. Let's be nice, right? Let's use a nice term. And do you trust Chris Grier to oversee that? So let me read some of these comments here before I let you answer that. Conrad says, I think Grier has to go regardless. He's had enough chances. Dana Bice, does he deserve to be back? No. Will he be back? Yes. AV, no on Chris Grier. Pretty boy, I think we have to draft much better. We are lacking young talent from the draft. Let's see here. Raphael Courtwright, GM needs to be 86. Peter McDowell, I do not want Greer drafting again. Bottom line. So, Nick Bangert says that is a really tough question. I mean, to make the playoffs with how the season started with Tua out for a part, but we weren't prepared for Tua to go out. Greer's fault. Comrade, you asked the question and dodged it. For LOL, I like it. Good eye, comrade. I did. That's exactly what I did. I shirked responsibility. I guess that it seems to me that most of our fans and viewers here. Mark brings up a good point. Mark says, I think it depends on what GM is available in the offseason. If it's an upgrade, you do it. If you are starting fresh, you bring in change. You don't do it. So I think the sentiment is against Greer right now. But Furones, let me ask you this change of philosophy and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. So if you get to the playoffs 9-8 with this ball control offense, and you know everybody is going to play the too high safety from here till eternity, if they see Tyreek and Waddle out there, do you have to trade one of them and maybe get a running back or maybe get a third slot receiver, whatever, D-line help? And do you have to trade one of them? And do you trust Chris Grier to make that move and have the foresight to retool this team?
Well, I don't see that trade occurring because, one, the two pieces would not be very tradable, especially now with their low. But you just gave Jalen Waddle that contract extension, and Tyreek Hill, you added guarantees to the years he already had on his contract. So especially with them not at the peak that they previously were, where the stock was so high, they're not very tradable right now, and you are committed to that. Like you decided it's going to be these two leading your offense, and also to an extent, that's still why defenses are so focused on stopping that combination. It's not, they're not producing as much statistically, but it's because defenses are so honed in on it. Now, yes, in the past, obviously defenses were honed in on it before, and you still found ways to get them the ball. And even when the two high safeties were going well over the top, and then you could still dip them underneath for the 20-yard chunk plays. And we're seeing less and less of that too. But it's still the focal point of the offense, and it's what opens everything else up. And it's why then Tua finds what the defense gives them, because that's what the defense is so heavily trying to take away.
Yeah. And if you're not utilizing those guys, they're almost decoys out there at this point, and they're very expensive decoys.
Yeah.
And if you're going a different direction, they're almost preventing you from going fully in that different direction, because you still got them on the roster. Yes, they're opening up things for Achane and Jonnu, but man, they're taking up a lot of money. They're taking up a lot of roster money. Maybe that's another thing that works against Chris Grier. But I think that Mike McDaniel was as much in favor of that and probably drove the bus on that as opposed to Chris Grier.
That's why I feel you got to see it out with the score. It's not just halfway through this season when you played 4 games without Tua. It's see it all the way out, and then at that point, once if it does inevitably all fail, maybe that's next year or whatever, then yes, obviously you got to bring it all down, and then just start over, new GM, new coach, because it's all of them together. But you see it out for now.
Let's see. Sean Heller says, I'm with Greer. Can't love our players and not like the guy who brought them here. He is not perfect, but he is improving. Mike McDaniel's stock has got to be up right now, correct? Even though he has scrapped the offense that he was going to bring in here, or that he did bring in here, that he was going to win the Super Bowl with, he's had some awareness. He's had, I thought Mike McDaniel late last season, and a lot of last season and early this season, was very stubborn, was very headstrong. I did see signs of change in training camp, and I kept bringing this up, that they're playing more big boy football, more red zone involvement for the tight end, running the ball more in the red zone. I saw that during training camp. I saw that in preseason. So I'll give Mike McDaniel credit for that. These are things I wish he would have noticed last year, but whatever. He recognized them this year. So I give that man credit. It's not easy to swallow your pride and put your ego aside and say what I had done. Look, and by the way, starting with that Buffalo game, we saw a big decrease in pre-snap motion and shifts and all that kind of stuff. He has simplified this offense, his baby, his trademark. I give Mike McDaniel huge credit for that he's able to recognize, here's what I need to do to best take advantage of what the defenses are giving me. So his stock has got to be up. I mean, he's not, John Harbaugh or Mike Tomlin at this particular moment, or Andy Reid, but to me, that recognition and that acknowledgement earns him higher marks.
Yeah, I would like to see the numbers on those motions. It hasn't indeed decreased a lot, because I feel like a lot of, just anecdotally, a lot of the plays that I'm thinking of that are being effective, I still see them. Like Jonnu Smith, that touchdown. You see Tyreek Hill in motion a lot, but you're noticing definitely a lot less motion. I don't know.
Yeah, and well, and I asked Frank Smith about it after the Buffalo game, and he said the noise up there was one thing, and so I don't know. After that, I think that it's been reduced, but I would like to see some numbers on it myself, because it's to me there's a whole package of changes that have been made offensively, and I'm talking about Raheem Mostert being included in that. So, again, my hat is off to Mike McDaniel for recognizing I need to make change, even with a as close to a friend as he probably has as a player in this league. He's kind of demoted Raheem and taken carries away. So, big ups to Mike McDaniel for that.
There is that, and kudos to them for recognizing, especially on the road in loud environments, you should be eliminating a lot of all that pre-snap motion. And I'm not eliminating, but I mean just reducing it, because we saw that Seattle game, how difficult it was, especially when you have a backup quarterback in. The operation, the functionality of the offense really suffers when you can't communicate everything you need to in such a complex offense pre-snap. So it is good, at least, especially in road environments, hostile environments, to reduce how much you're doing that.
Yep. All right, here we go, baby. We are getting to one of the most popular 4 segments on this 4-segment show. It is the Furones bonus.
Oh, the Furones bonus.
I love it, baby. I love it. All right, so here we go. This week's Furones bonus. Furones is being asked, who are the 5 most important players on the Dolphins right now? And I think preseason, we'd have all had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on this list. The question is, now that we are in week 12, right? Week 12, are those 2 going to be on David Furones' list of the 5 most important players on the Dolphins right now at 12:41 p.m. on November 19th? Who are they, Furones?
Yeah, all right, first, how could Tyreek even be a question? This coming from Mr. This offense is all about 2 things. Tyreek and the threat of Tyreek. You've said that so many times, and now it's in question whether he's one of the top 5 most important players on the and I'll let you respond to that at the end. But so let me begin by saying Tyreek has to be on this list, but I'm putting Tua as most important, especially because the Dolphins aren't well positioned at backup quarterback, and we've seen what it looks like when he's not the starting quarterback. So this season has very much come to light. Tua, obviously, he's right there. Now, next I'm putting Tyreek because end of the day, the number one thing defenses are still trying to stop is Tyreek Hill and the deep ball. Jalen Waddle plays into that somewhat. Still, number one is Tyreek Hill. If it was just Jalen Waddle, it wouldn't be to the same extent. So Tyreek Hill, still, he has to be right up there. I go to defense. Jalen Ramsey comes next. Just like same quality of player as Tyreek Hill, one of the top receivers, preseason, number 1 on the top 100. Although obviously after this season, that'll be coming down by next year, but that's neither here nor there. But Jalen Ramsey, he's being used as that ultimate chess piece on defense. So versatile. Anthony Weaver really utilizing his skill set to the full extent. So he's one of the best players at his position league-wide. So, yes, it's kind of like as Tyreek Hill on offense, Jalen Ramsey on defense. So that's why they're definitely in the top 3. Fourth, I'm going to say Teron Armstead, playing at a high level in his age 32 season at left tackle. He anchors that offensive line, especially as a run blocker, but then also, of course, in pass protection. And you've already lost 1 tackle. This is key with Austin Jackson now out for the season. Kendall Lamb is already in at right tackle. If you lose 2, now Patrick Paul is no longer taking this as a redshirt year. He's being thrust into action. I'm intrigued by seeing him, but I'd rather not see him too much until he's had a full year in the offense. So that's why Teron Armstead, especially since you've already lost your right tackle, Austin Jackson, Teron Armstead, so important on his own. Yeah, you need that man to stay healthy. He has, to his credit, so far this year. He missed 1 game due to concussion, but other than that, he was questionable going into this one, but he stayed healthy. And so that's 4. And I actually, in prep, I have not established 5th. So I'm going to be selecting it live here. We'll do it live. We'll do it. All right. So I'm between Achane, of course. Jonnu Smith has really brought himself up. I only have 1 defender. So on defense, Zach Sealer, Calais Campbell are up there as possibilities. Javon Holland maybe would be the next tier, but not quite up there. You know what? We started this show talking about Devon Achane and how many touches he's receiving. So based on that, I'm going to say Devon Achane. I maybe wasn't going to go that route because we did see the Patriots game without Tua, and then Achane goes out early. You still had such a good run game going with Raheem Mostert and Jalen Wright behind this offensive line, but still, it's just the workload he's receiving. The way in recent games you've seen Mostert and Jalen Wright have either not gotten their touches or haven't been as effective. So, yeah, you really do need Achane in this offense, and he's such a weapon. He's been for a lot of this just the go-to, actually, for Tua, that security blanket that he can just throw the ball to out of the backfield. Get easy completions to him, and he can make someone miss for yards after the catch. Jonnu is just rising in these rankings, but you still got to put Achane above him at number 5.
Yeah. Okay. Billy Batson, welcome, man. Good to see you. I am going to go Tua, Achane, Jonnu, Zach Sealer, Jalen Ramsey. I'm leaving out Teron. I'm leaving out Calais. I'm leaving out Tyreek. I'm leaving out Waddle. And I'm going with the 3 most important guys on offense. 2 are Achane and Jonnu. And then the 2 defensive guys, to me, it's Sealer and Ramsey, although this is up for debate. I mean, it's a very, very – I mean, leaving Calais out is almost ridiculous, right? I mean, how do you leave Calais out? Some of our viewers – Comrade says Tua, Achane, Ramsey, Sealer, Campbell. Dana Bice, Tua, Armstead, Sealer, Holland, Smith. Peter McDowell, Tua, Achane, Smith, Campbell, Ramsey. Jonnu is getting some good stuff here. Nick Bangert, Big Z, Tua, Achane, Campbell. Raphael Courtwright has Achane, Sanders, Ramsey, Smith, and Calais. So it's a very tough choice because there's 3 deserving people on defense, right? That Calais, Sealer, and Ramsey, and it's tough to leave them out. But leaving out, I mean, 2 is unanimous. But yeah, the Jonnu, Achane, Tyreek is another tough. That's another tough situation right there. So look, if this was at this time earlier, well, if this was at this time last year, you probably would have had Jonnu Smith. I mean, Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb vying for spots, right? Because Jalen was Black Friday and Chubb was New Year's Eve, so they would have been in the mix. Things have changed in the last year greatly. All right, Furones, we come to our final segment. It is prediction time, baby. Dolphins versus Patriots, 1 o'clock, Hard Rock Stadium. Who you got? I'll let you go first.
All right. I got the Dolphins winning this one. Of course, we spoiled this one very early in the show, and that should be of no surprise. Need this victory. Get back to 5-6. I got Dolphins 31, Patriots 17. They didn't see Drake May the first time, so this will be the introduction to Drake May. I think it's going to be tough for him on the road. The defense gotten going a little bit. A couple of touchdown drives that they wish they wouldn't have given up to the Raiders. But I don't see the Dolphins having too much trouble, and the offense should be much better off than it was that early October afternoon in Foxborough. So I see them again hitting 30 points, getting to 31, and they keep the Patriots at 17. I see the defense doing better on third down than we just saw on Sunday against the Raiders. So and maybe forcing a couple turnovers too.
All right, I'm going Dolphins 31-20, and so we're very close on that score. A couple of things. Billy Batson says, this is from the last segment, but I will use it for this segment. Billy Batson says, I don't like Achane, the receiver. Achane being the best receiver is wild, though. I bring that up for this purpose. This is a game that you need to kind of push the boundaries. You can't be stupid and say, we're going to force the ball to Tyreek. But yes, Achane as the top receiver, see how you can expound on that or see how you can disperse the ball better. See if you can get the ball to Tyreek and Waddle in different areas that you usually get it to them. I would like to see this game as, again, the first priority is win. You can't overlook anybody, including this Patriots team. But, yeah, I would like to see him do some different things. Get Jalen Wright some carries, right? Again, take this opponent very seriously and win the game. But I think you kind of need to prepare yourself for some things down down the line. And while we're talking about down the line, Furones, Raphael Courtright says New England almost beat the Rams. That's right. And Raphael predicts 27-17, Dolphins winning. Let me ask you this, Furones. When we talk about getting right and getting things right, Jordan Poyer. We've seen Mike McDaniel take playing time from Durham Smythe. We've seen him demote and then waive David Long Jr. We've seen him basically demote Raheem Mostert. Is this the game where you put Marcus May out there more, put Elijah Campbell out there more? Do you start experimenting with, I think that, again, you take New England seriously, but don't you have to kind of start looking at stuff for the stretch run here? And Poyer might be one of those guys?
Yeah, and I'll begin by addressing, yes, the Patriots did play the Rams tough. Now, that is a home game, Rams traveling all the way across the country, diagonally from the southwest corner to northeast for a 1 o'clock game, East Coast, which is 10 a.m. Pacific start time. So there's a lot of factors also that go into that one. The Rams still went in there and got a win, so that's always tough for a West Coast team to travel all the way east for an early start and win a game. But the Rams still did it. And the Patriots, they did, to their credit, also win at Chicago the week before that. They had the win against the Jets a couple weeks earlier. So, yeah, I mean, with Drake May, they've been a better ball club than we saw that first time around with Jacoby Brissett. May has just been okay, 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He's still a rookie, but he's showing some promise. But as far as if you make some adjustments, I could kind of see something like that. It's another game where you're facing a tough tight end in Hunter Henry.
Yes.
We've seen the tight ends just eat the Dolphins up. We saw it with Trey McBride of the Cardinals. Brock Bowers, the rookie for Las Vegas. Again, it was Jordan Poyer in coverage for some of those. So, yeah, maybe you do mix something up. I know the Dolphins did well against the tight end in Buffalo, but yeah, Marcus May was starting in that one too. We also saw Marcus May miss a tackle in that Buffalo game,
Yes.
in the field. But it is a tough one, of course, in the open field. But still, that led to a touchdown. Things could have gone differently if he gets Ray Davis was the Bills running back there on that down. So, yeah, I mean, these coaches are seeing them in practice and their preparation. We just see the game and how they look in the game. And, yes, the Dolphins could get an improvement at the other safety position if they do demote Poyer and move either May or, hey, we hear Anthony Weaver talk about Elijah Campbell all the time.
Yep.
So maybe he could be a guy. But, yeah, I would not be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a move like that made. And, hey, maybe this is the week that rookie Patrick McMorris is activated. He's been designated for return, has been back at practice, the 6th-round pick that they like, and maybe activate him. And I don't think he would be starting right away, but, maybe he's at least up, and then maybe one injury away from getting inserted if it comes to that.
Yeah, I would like to see them be conservative with Alec Ingold. To me, calf injuries and high ankle sprains are usually 3 or 4 week things, not 1 or 2 week things. And to me, you want to have Ingold for Green Bay more than you want to have him for New England. Green Bay is a better team, and that's his homecoming. So I would be more conservative with Ingold, but I think everybody else, Rob Jones, and you're pretty healthy. You didn't have any major dings from last game. As I recall, Raheem is okay. So you're in good spot physically. Your offense is being revamped. It's all systems go for this game and for going in and making December and January successful. I know Green Bay is a November game, Thanksgiving, but all systems are go. I'm hoping for good things from here on out.
You do have to manage a little bit the 2 games in 5 days. So,
yes.
Yeah,
good point.
Calf injury. I know this is the second go-around where the Dolphins have this scenario where they have to manage such a thing. Obviously started the season with the Sunday opener and then playing Thursday night.
Yep.
Now you also have travel going into this Thursday night, so less prep time. Travel is involved. It takes up a lot of your Wednesday there before Thanksgiving night on the back end going into Green Bay. So maybe you do get Alec Ingold. If he's ready to go, maybe you have him active, but on a very limited snap count. I know they had sort of that plan with Jalen Phillips in the opener. It was his first game back from the Achilles of last year. And then what do you end up seeing? He ends up playing a lot of snaps because sort of the way the game went. Also, it was a close game. You had to get that win anyway. So it's also a scenario where you also can't lose the Patriots game. So if you do end up in the game, then yes, you are managing the end of that game, not worrying about a snap count for any players. You're managing them to win the game, and then you worry about Thursday on Thursday. But any guy who's dealing with some kind of snap count, the Dolphins will be mindful of it, but still with the understanding that if it's tight late, you do need to win this game.
All right, Mother Nature, the sun shining on my face, coming through the blinds, is telling me it's time to get the hell off the air here. We've been on too long. I mean, come on. That's what Mother Nature is telling me. So look, we will keep you all informed of our schedule for next week. The Dolphins having that Thanksgiving game means they'll probably practice on Tuesday. So we'll let you know if there's a change in the schedule for the show. But thanks as always for tuning in. That's David Furones. I'm Chris Perkins. You're watching Dolphins Deep Dive with Perkins.